Hello, I'm Joe Farace and welcome to another video. This one's a little bit different than the previous ones in that it will cover both film-based and digital infrared photography. Now we're going to step into the world of digital photography. Digital photography has a whole lot of advantages. We just finished talking about the pros and cons. One of the biggest advantages is that you'll be able to shoot at handheld shutter speeds. So you could shoot it pretty much like you're shooting daytime photography with a regular camera. So having a camera converted for infrared capture, on the other hand, is not cheap, and it kind of varies depending on where you get it done. I've used several companies over the years. Recently, and for the cameras I'm going to show you here in a few bits, were done by LifePixel. And they've done a great job at relatively affordable prices. But it's not cheap, and one of the things I always suggest to people, if you have a camera that's sitting around collecting dust and you're not using it, it's a perfect camera to convert to infrared. My friend Barry Staver, when he bought his Lumix GH5, he took his GH4, which he hadn't been using, and converted it to infrared. And so it creates really fabulous looking images. So anyway, that's a tip I always give. Now the big advantage, like I said, fast shutter speeds, but it's going to cost you a few bucks. So let me take a look at what's in my camera kit. And interestingly, I have 3 different cameras, which is probably excessive, but each one has a different job and each camera is different. So let me let you take a look at what these things are. The Panasonic Lumix G5 was the first mirrorless camera that I bought. It's the camera that got me into the Micro Four Thirds system. And you know, it's a very compact thing. In fact, let me show you something. This is a camera bag that holds all of my infrared cameras. It holds 3 cameras, 3 chargers, because the cameras are all different and all have different chargers, a couple of lenses, and a bunch of this and that stuff, lens pens and all that kind of good stuff that you need, that you want to keep in a camera bag. This thing is relatively small, and it's also relatively light. So I can go out on location and carry 3 cameras, each one fit for a different purpose. So let's get back to the G5. As I said, the G5 was my first Micro Four Thirds camera. And when I bought a G6, I stopped using it. So I converted it. This was the first Micro Four Thirds camera I had that I converted to infrared. I had it done by LifePixel, and I had the standard infrared conversion, because that creates the one that we all know, the look of the one that we all know and love. The basic black and white foliage, black skies drama that most people associate with infrared. And I can't remember what it cost at the time. The prices have been relatively stable, and I'll put a link below to LifePixel. You can check out what their costs are for different cameras and for different filters. This camera has served me well, and I must tell you, I don't use it as much as I used to, and that's because I bought the G6, Lumix G6, when the G7 came out, and one of the things I kind of did, because I am a devout cheapo, as I've mentioned many times. When a new camera comes out, in this case it was the G7, which is a whole different form factor. And they marked the heck out of these G6s. So I bought a G6. And it's been great. Along the way, Mary gives me a GH4 for a birthday present, because she's so nice. Now the G6 doesn't get used as much. I'm thinking, okay, I've always wanted to try the blue sky effect. And so I had the what they call the enhanced color infrared filter done to this, which it cuts off at 665 nanometers. Now the standard IR filter that Life Picture uses cuts off at 720, so it's very much like an 89B. I remember the first time I went down to Cave Meadows, shot some pictures with this camera and with the enhanced color filter. Came back, stuck the memory card in the computer, and ran through the very, very simple bits that you need to convert the raw file into the blue sky effect. I'll put a link below also to the blog post that tells you how to do the blue sky effect. It's pretty simple in Photoshop. You do it in 5 minutes. I remember I did that, and I was blown away by the effect. And I couldn't believe it. And one of my friends, Cliff Lawson, was visiting me later that day. I said, Cliff, look at this. And he said, wow, that's really something. The thing I found out also from that day was I was lucky. A lot of the blue sky effect depends on the type of day it is, what time of day you shoot, and also getting the exposure right. So if you really want to go for the blue sky effect, it's a good idea to bracket your exposures a little bit, maybe even as much as a stop on either side as what you think might be the proper exposure. And I've written about getting proper exposure with infrared to death, and maybe we'll make a video about it. But in the meantime, I'll give you a link below to one of the posts that'll give you some tips on exposing for infrared, because camera meters really don't see non-visible light. So then, this is a Deuce GX1 that I bought from Robert's Camera for like $100, I think. It's in beautiful condition. It's like new, and I bought it specifically to get converted to their hypercolor filter. Now their hypercolor filter, you can't talk about nanometers. They don't talk about it either. So I have no idea of the nanometers that the filter cuts off. What I do know is it creates very, very wild and crazy color effects. Now, also, this is where geography can come into it. Colorado, it's funny, when you drive into Colorado, a big sign says, welcome to colorful Colorado. Well, that's a misnomer. I mean, in the wintertime, like right now, we have basic shades of brown and occasionally white, like today, from the snow. My friend in Colombia, he keeps inviting me down there because he knows, and I know too, that if I get into a really tropical climate with lush green leaves and palm trees and stuff, that this camera will take some pretty amazing images. In the meantime, I do have fun with it, and if you read my blog, and you really should if you get a chance, you'll see some of the interesting colors that this camera can produce with the hypercolor filter. Now, you don't need to own every camera filter or any of the ones there. There are plenty of different infrared filters. Poke around on the web and you'll find all kinds of options. The same goes for camera conversions. There are lots of different ones available from lots of different companies, and I just because I've been using one particular vendor doesn't mean you have to. The idea behind the whole infrared capture is, number one, to have fun with your photography. That's always been the motto of my blog. And I want you to have fun with your photography. If infrared does it, that's great. It'll also help get you out of a rut. One of the guys that sent me an email once upon a time, and he said that he liked infrared photography because the only time he got to make photos was on his lunch hour, and the lighting is terrible to shoot color film at noon. However, noon is the golden hour for infrared. So here's the thing to keep in mind. When the light looks absolutely terrible to make traditional color or black and white pictures, infrared is at its best. So everything you know about visible light photography gets turned on its head. and you can have a lot of fun. Get out of ruts. Just enjoy the heck out of making images that are a little different maybe than what you've been making for all these years. And I think you'll have fun doing it. I really would appreciate it if you give this video a like, or even better, subscribe to this channel. It really would help out a lot. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again real soon.